Welcome back to Mess to Mission, and I have another guest today that I think you're going to be super excited to hear from. I am here with my friend Sarah, and we have gone through the world to schedule this podcast. So I'm super excited to be here with her today, so we can move forward and just learn a little bit about her and kind of what she's doing in the realm of all the things. So, Sarah, thank you so much for being here, and just tell the audience a little bit about you.
Lindsay, thank you for having me here despite all the back and so I am the owner of Fun Cycled, which is a furniture repurposing, interior design, and kitchen facelift company. So I primarily, even though I started as a furniture repurposing company back in 2012, over the years, I primarily do interior design. And my husband kind of leads the construction arm for the kitchen refacing and furniture repurposing now. So what started as a business that I thought would be a part-time gig to hold me over and help me do something creative instead of going to my 9 to 5 because I had a 2 and a 3-year-old and I just really wanted to be home with them. So I started Fun Cycle. I was in the IT industry. I had nothing to do with what I do right now for 9 years, right out of high school. And in that company, I learned how to, run a business. Basically, I started as the secretary. I worked my way up slowly, slowly, slowly. And then when I left, I was basically assistant manager to the owner. So I was hiring and running all the things, setting up all the classes, doing sales, the invoicing, and so just it was a whole gamut of learning within that. And I knew I wanted to start something that was creative, that was repurposing, recycling. And that's where the baby called Fun Cycled started. And I had so much fun. By April, I was making the same as my part-time job or my job at the time. So I quit it. And a year and a half after that, my husband joined me and we have been full time in it ever since. So 14 years this year. And I can't even believe it. I feel like the years have just flown by. I also feel like uh, because of that, I can't imagine not doing what I do. Like I absolutely love, I feel like this is what I was made to do. And I'm so grateful God's kind of directed my path in this world of design. And over the years, we've had so many unique things like being on TV and having really creative experiences, writing a book, having my artwork in stores, and just so many unique things that I would never have anticipated. I always say I'm an ordinary girl that God is allowed to do some extraordinary things just by steady surrender. So I really am grateful for all He's given and blessed me in.
So that's so much to unpack, but I love
I
every
know,
little
right?
bit of it. So I'm like, okay, so first of all, let's go back to the furniture repurposing because that's not just like a skill set that you wake up one day and decide that that's like the thing you want to do. So tell us a little bit about how you even got into that realm because I don't even know that I would know where to start. So has design something just like been something that you've always been interested in, or how did you choose that specific route for coming out of the IT world?
Yeah, that's a good question. So basically, what I started with was knowing I wanted to repurpose things. We cared a lot about recycling. We thought that we wanted it to be recycling focused, and I knew that thought about maybe I would do like vintage jewelry made from things that were old. And the more I tried different things before I was officially starting it as a business, I didn't really go hobby to business. I tried a couple different things and thought, what do I enjoy the most? In my high school years, I was homeschooled. And during the homeschool time, my parents would let us each pick what we were really passionate about. And mine was art. So I took professional painting classes with an artist and through my high school years and had some art and galleries. So I knew I loved painting. Know I love color, design. And so I thought, that I would love for it to incorporate something with that. My husband wanted to build furniture, and I said, "Nobody makes money buying furniture unless you're Amish, or building furniture unless you're Amish."
Yeah.
Uh, so I was like, "This blends the two. Where we're kind of repurposing, rebuilding the furniture, sometimes building new, and then I would paint specialty finishes and have it have an artistic flair." So that's kind of where it was started from. That's why I named it Fun Cycle because I want to have fun upcycling.
First of all, I love that because you're doing what you want to be doing and you're doing it in your gift. So art is clearly something that you're passionate about. And that has been harvested from such a young age. And I think that's super cool about the homeschool thing too, because those are opportunities. I'm very passionate about, homeschoolers can, if spun the right way, can have so many great opportunities to dive into that the children might not have available to them otherwise. So that is super cool that that was something that you were able to harness and kind of grow into what you love to do today. So you're kind of mixing your business expertise with doing all the artistic thing. Did you find that it was hard to kind of mesh the 2, or how did you and your husband go about kind of maybe even, like, delegating who's gonna handle what? Or because I work with my husband too, and it's not for the faint of heart some days, I will say that, but obviously you have to be able to play on each other's strengths and figure out how each one operates to kind of maximize your success.
Right. So the question is not melding creative work versus clerical. It's more how is working with my husband. That's more the question.
Well, I think more too is there things that you both had to learn together? Is it something that you had to grow and develop? Like he had certain skills outside of running the business, and you had more corporate kind of that acumen, or how did you all go about forming this in cohesion?
Yeah, so I would say the first 5 years were extremely difficult on our marriage. It was extremely difficult on me. More than him, he's pretty chill. So things didn't really get to him too much, but it just became a lot of friction. I think I had to do the work of stepping away from some situations and letting the chips fall with him, even if it wasn't the way I would want it to be handled, which that's a perfectionistic tendency, right? To want to make sure, because my thought was, I started this company. I want my name to be aligned with someone who responds within 24 hours, who makes everyone feel more comfortable because of the way that I hyper communicate. Like I'm a communicator. He's more of like his response on a text would be deal, and mine would be, I see that you're concerned. Like I will definitely look into that. But so I wanted
Yes,
him to
yes.
structure responses the way I did. And then another big problem I would say in the business was that he was doing a lot of the construction, I was doing the design. And so but because I was the initiator of the client experience, if there was a problem in the construction, it would come back to me all the time. So people would be like, "Oh, we don't like this paint color, blah blah," or "We don't like that he did this or this," and I would just deal with the issue. Well, that's where resentment builds, right? Because I didn't make the mistake, but yeah, I'm dealing with the ramifications, and people are getting. And not that it happened all the time, because generally our clients are great. Generally, it's not a big issue. But whenever it did, I didn't like that it landed on me. So over the first between the 5 and 10 year mark, I think is when we started getting the groove down of, hey, I'm onboarding in sales and design. Once it gets to you, you have to work out the rest. So we had to really clearly delineate. And it was hard work for me to let go. And it was hard work for me to keep the standard there, right? Because when you go through years of everything comes back to me, when the first problem comes up, and he would naturally go, hey, what do we do? Like, they're not happy about X, Y, or Z. And I had to literally bite my tongue and say, I don't know, work with him on that. He's like, "Well, you should be involved. You were at the beginning." I'm like, "No, I'm off the job now. I was the project management at the beginning, or I was the design, and now you really have to work on the client experience." And even today, sometimes it's a fight. I would say it's way better than it was, way better than it was. But it is hard when your name is on something that you've put all your energy and years of time and experience into. You definitely want to continue to make sure it has the level of customer service you that I want. So I think clear role and clear, like, hey, if you do the project, you're the one responding about this. So same way, sometimes he'd want to give design input, and I'm like, don't give design input. You don't know why I thought through. You can't do that. You can't move that wall because this
Don't
structure
give them
is
any
that's
ideas to change anything.
exactly. I remember we had one client who had a whole bedroom set furniture pieces that were going into a nursery. And I had already picked out the design, right? And then he meets with a client to do the actual work. And he tells them he thinks it's a great idea to do a purple glaze over it. Now, number one, was that? Who does a purple glaze? I've never heard of that in my life. Number two, that's hideous. There's no way. And I'm like, dude, what? He's like, I thought it sounded cool. It's like a baby girl. I'm like, never say no. Don't do that. So we had to clearly be like, please, you don't design. Let me do that. And I won't tell you the construction side. And then we can mesh the two together and it will be much better. And right now it's so much smooth. It's so much smoother than it's ever been.
I think that's such a that right there is even a perfect example of missed commission. So I worked in construction for about 4 years, and that is a primarily male dominated field. And like you said, communication for me, I needed it to be strong, clear, concise, and customer based. And then that is not the innate traits of people who actually perform the construction work. And so
So
when you
true.
get, okay, okay, well, I asked you 3 questions and your response back was, "Okay." Okay to what of the 3 questions? Like, is there any follow-up? Do you need additional instruction? So it is, that industry specifically, you have to over communicate. You have to make sure that all the ducks are in the row, and it's hard to kind of
It is.
transition. So we did have a design department. So even moving from that to the construction piece to the project manager, even the lingo you have to relearn how to mesh, how to communicate. So I can only imagine had I done that with my husband, how that would have gone. But, you know, you have to build those systems and structures within your business regardless. So I think you said one really good thing about like setting boundaries and making sure that there's a pass off process, or once this leaves your hands, it goes to his hands. So I just wondered how that worked as far as like my husband and I both came from corporate. So we both kind of had a little bit of the same like structured before this started. If I hadn't had that knowledge previously, I wouldn't know half the things that I know now to implement into a small business. So I love that you have the capability of kind of meshing the two plus that creative piece per se.
Yeah. And he came from a culinary industry, so it was not anything similar at all. He went to culinary school and ran restaurants. So he was used to running more of like a that type of environment. It's totally opposite from what we are doing now. So yeah, I would say we both didn't have experience from, well, he did some construction through college, so he did have that behind him, but not the project management and not the managing of others within construction field.
Yeah. Well, so you've got, this whole thing set up now. So tell me about how becoming an author and all of those things kind of finds its way into your realm of all the things that you're executing.
Yeah, so it's funny because when I was turning 40 a couple years ago, I'm 42 now. I really wanted to do 40. I did 40 new experiences, things I've never done before between my 39th and 40th year. And one of the things I wanted to do was write a book, and it just didn't come to me. Like it just was not right. And then last year, I tried to do a lot of less asking God for things and more just listening to God. And in those moments when I really would meditate and pray and just kind of really get quiet, and I'm not asking him for a thing, just saying like, speak to me or don't, like, let me rest in you or speak to me, whichever it is. There were two things that he kept saying, like, art, you need to bring back your artwork, which I haven't painted like to show really many people anything in I would say almost 20 years. So most of my friends did not even know I knew how to paint art for galleries and or whatever. And then the book, it was like the book. But I still was like, I don't know, the story, I feel like my story is fine, but nothing that anyone really wants to read. So I kind of was like, I don't know, like every time I go to work on it, it just was like, nah, this story's been told before. Like I could give you a million different authors who've written something like this. And okay, it might inspire some, but I don't know. And then I was sitting across from a dear friend of mine who I've been friends with since I was 4 years old, who was talking about how she was kind of praying and meditating and trying to hear from God. And one of the things that she kept feeling bad about was that she cared about how her house looked. And it's just vanity, you know? And if you knew this person, she wasn't frivolous in her spending. She was thrifting. She was being careful. She had the money to spend. It's not like she was overspending. And her home was so beautiful from like a peaceful environment. So many people were blessed being in there. And it got me thinking like how I think people are skewed a bit and how they view beauty, design, creativity, especially in the Christian world. Like it's almost like this vain thing. And I've had people over the years even say, "Hey, why do you do interior design? Isn't that vanity? Like as a Christian, how do you really feel like you could do that?" And it makes me sad a little bit to think that's how they're viewing it, almost like Botox, like the woman who doesn't wanna admit she gets it, so it's naughty or something, you know? And it's like,
Yeah.
that's not why I design. It's not to be the most affluent and not to have the grandest things. It's how do I create spaces where people want to host others because community and hospitality are important in God's eyes and in life in general. Even if you don't believe in God, it's very, it's good for our health. I believe in creating sacred spaces in the sense that, we've worked with trauma informed patients and done sex trafficking houses. So learning like the colors that calm your mood, learning the textures that are helpful in that and how it actually can affect our bodies, our mind, just by the spaces that we're in and the spaces that are designed. So I think sometimes designs can evoke emotions and feelings that we don't even think about but we feel it when we're in those spaces, but we don't know how it ever got there. So to say like those things are all just vanity, to me, that's just a misalignment with what I think is the heart of God. And so it all kind of just came flooding together and all made sense to me within that one conversation. And then it was just kind of hashing out what's that going to look like in the book? How do I explain it? How to make it practical applications for people chapter by chapter? And how do I help them just see those benefits and then go from there to apply it? And so once I did that, I mean, I had obviously editors who helped me after I got everything out in one spot, and then people on staff who did the layout and things like that. So then I got to be a little more hands off till the end. But the idea, it was really it came from in the stillness and in the quiet with God, kind of going, what do you want? Like what is it? What do you? And then it all came together. So it was a beautiful experience.
Well, I think that's so I mean, like, I agree with you about, that being a space to calm your nerves, calm your central like, I don't see that as vanity at all, and it triggered me when you were saying something about that because when we're kids, we're so creative. And then sometimes I'll ask even adults or, like, business owners, like, I challenge you, like, when's the last time you were creative or did a hobby or did that was outside of, like, your work? Because, as we get older and we don't get those chances like we did as a kid to paint or to create or do all these things. And then sometimes even when you're older, it kind of feels goofy because you've not done it in so long unless you have kids and you're like me on the ground playing Barbies and making fake worlds of dinosaurs and things like that. But even then, sometimes I'm like, I feel like such a goofball because this is not something that I do every moment of every single day, but we kind of lose that when we get older. And I think design, especially interior design, I view it as like that ability to be creative as you get older and then kind of utilize what you learned even in your childhood about that being something that can calm your nervous system overall to bring that to life in a more adult, mind you, forward fashion.
Right. I totally agree. It's so beautiful. And the world is a creative, like beautiful masterpiece. There's so many things that if it was really vanity and if it was really that like anti-holy, why would it have been created that way? Why isn't everything just gray? Why do we have the mountaintops and the valley? It's just
Yep.
it's kind of short-sighted to think that good design equals emptiness or vanity.
Yeah, I agree. I think it just takes it all to the next level, and I think also, like, a good organized and well-designed space, it can be so I don't know, like, you're finding your gratitude during the day. You can be finding like, everyone's into this big, like, romanticize your life, do this, do that, but, like, if you were in a very for me personally, like, if I'm in a very overstimulated, cluttered space, like, that doesn't I don't find joy in that. So it means different things to different people, but what is the
Yes.
book called for those
Created
that
to
are listening?
create. Yeah,
I
it's
love
created to
that.
create. It's on Amazon, so it's easy, but you might have to put in my name, Sarah Trop, because there's so many books, but created to create. Yep. So
I love that. So, you're figuring out the process of a book. You have a successful business with your husband. Kind of what was maybe something that you wish you would have known prior to becoming a business owner or prior to becoming an author? Was there something along that journey that you kind of just felt like, shoot, I wish I would have had a little bit of heads up about this. Or, I mean, anything from like the IRS needs you to do X, Y, and Z. This wasn't how I thought it was going to pan out. Like, was there any like moments on this journey where you thought, man, I really wish I could have, benefited from knowing that sooner or earlier?
yeah, I think some of the things I probably heard but didn't believe, and if someone's listening, they might not believe me because I probably wouldn't have believed me. But one is that I was very anti-risk, very risk averse. And in small business, generally you have to risk if you're going to get rewards. So all the things that made us the most or gave us the biggest experiences, it was all based on higher risk or the idea of getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. So typically, a lot of small business owners, they don't want to be uncomfortable putting themselves on video to go on social media because they don't feel like they have it put together, or they don't want to put a price tag on something that they know they need it to be a certain amount, or they can't do it, or they try a business branch that they're not sure will work. We don't want to do that because failing can be so deflating, right? And so it can cause us to feel like, well, why do we even go forward? But every step along the way, when I've risked, even if the risk was a fail. I learned so much along the way. So as long as you can reframe your mindset to go, failed risk is learning, and that's okay. And then winning risk will probably win bigger than you can do any other way. So I wish I had believed that sooner in business. I think I could have had experiences that I did not have because I was risk averse. But I've done so many cool things because I've said yes that really it's okay. I trust the process. But I think maybe that I wish I had also earlier in business had someone who was not just a financial advisor, but about 10 years in, I had a business coach kind of, but who was also a financial advisor. So he really taught me about so many details with money and the best way to structure business, the best way to pay yourself, the best way to write things off, the best way to invest in the business that would yield a return. And he could do things that were so different from what I would think about. Like, hey, you could dump 100,000 into this flip, and if you hold the cash for this long, you're losing this much amount monthly on the investment. So is it worth the return, even if you make 100,000 at the end? And he could just help me calculate things that, even though I like math, I wouldn't have thought through all of those pros and cons. We restructured the business with him. We moved it to an S corp. We went on payroll. Like, so we just that, and it became probably 10,000 to 20,000 a year in tax savings, just structuring the business the right way. So in some ways, I would have invested in people who understood things outside of what I understood. It's always worth the money, even if it's only for like 3 or 4 months to understand what you're doing wrong. I look at that as I don't have a college degree, but now I'm investing in a condensed college degree in all of these different areas that I don't typically do. Like I just signed up, I'm in a interior design cohort that specifically talks about certain things every single week, and it's high level because I'm now like, okay, I feel like I've learned what I can easily learn on my own. Now I need to be challenged by somebody who I haven't even thought about the things that they think about. There's this whole world that, and it's expensive, right? I don't really want to spend the money at all right now, but I'm also like, I have to keep learning. I have to keep knowing what I don't know. And I want to keep growing as a person. Paying for somebody who has an expertise, I've never regretted spending that money. Never.
Do you think that there was something that you did that helped kind of push you along to be more comfortable with taking that risk? Like, as far as, because I think fear does hold a lot of people back. Fear of not making their return on investment, their fear of just not being able to know X, Y, or Z, or not feeling confident in, what they have the knowledge to do. Is there anything that you found particular that helped you kind of say, okay, I am risk adverse, but we're gonna try this and see how it executes.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things. So baby steps and risk was helpful for me. So I basically said, I don't have money in savings when I start this company. So I'm going to get free dressers alongside the road, sell them, take the money from that. And I didn't go into debt throughout the beginning years. So that helped me because I'm like, worst case scenario, the fallback is I just go get a job. So I think having your fallback ready, even though you're probably going to ever need it. Someone also said in a lecture once that I was at is that women are always she had a stat, I don't remember what it was, but it was a significant amount less is statistically less likely to risk versus men. But women are way higher, more likely to be able to figure it out and make it work than men. So she's like, in a room of women, I want to challenge you to risk way more than you're comfortable with because you're naturally not going to want to, and you're way more likely to succeed than you think. So that helped me kind of switch that narrative a little bit. And then the bigger the risk, like I remember one house that we bought, I pulled in, everyone was like, you're crazy. You should not have bought that house, bulldoze it down, turn it into apartments. And I pulled into the driveway. I cried and I was like, this is either the worst decision or the best decision of my life. And I wasn't sure for years. Like it was 5 years of renovations, 6 years with exterior included. But now it's like we have this property that's probably worth over 500,000 more than what we bought it for, in a matter of 5 to 6 years, even with what we put into it. So the higher the risk that I do, the more I see, okay, it actually does pay off. And this is one thing I see small business owners kind of mess up sometimes is that they try to have risk with only one way that there could be a reward, right? So for instance, when I look at a risk, I say, okay, this is high risk. This could bankrupt me. This is scary. But if it can't be this, it could be this. If it can't be this, it could be this. So I bought an old electric trolley station a few years ago, and it was $27,000. We fell through the floor walking through it. It was a hot disaster, no electric run to it. We didn't know this, like how bad it was. Well, we said, okay, we're going to flip it and we're going to sell it. If we can't make money, our backup is it becomes an Airbnb. If that doesn't do well, then we'll rent it month to month. If that doesn't do well, maybe we'll see if my parents want to live there to retire there. So we had like 4 layers of protection, and that helps me step into risk because I know those 4 layers. So if I don't have at least 3, I would say, I tend to not risk because I don't ever want to be trapped financially in the sense of there's no way I can get out of it. And so that has helped me just be successful. And then the more I've been successful, the more I'm willing to risk.
I well, first of all, the falling through the floor was not great. I don't think that that sounds like a good time. That, like, stresses me out. I just, like, had flashbacks to where we went to, like, this really old it was like an event space, and it was like an old house, and then it had, like, completely dry rotted inside, and the floors had disintegrated, and so they had just put down, like, 2 by 4s, and you had to walk on the 2 by 4s or you would fall into the basement, and it was just like a Jumanji thing, and I was like, There's no way this is safe." Like, 0 out of 10, like, none of us had for the walkthrough, like, hard hats or, like, anything, so I'm like, "If I fall into this dungeon of death, I'm, like, over this. So, like, I'm quitting my job, I'm moving on, this is terrible," but I digress. But, yeah, no, I think that that's fear typically does hold us back, and it holds us back, I think, especially as women, because there's been multiple times where people have, kind of approached me, and I'm like, "Hey, I think I wanna start a business, I think I wanna get some systems set up," but then either I don't know where to start or, they get hung up on like the logo or the branding. And I'm like, we that all can come later. Like there's nobody who I've ever looked at him and like, gosh, I would love to work with Sarah, but that logo, it really irritates me. And I'm not ever gonna hire her because her work is beautiful, but that logo, I mean, golly, could she have done a better job? Like that has never been a thing ever when I have worked alongside business owners. But we do get hung up on having that one tunnel vision result, I think, and then it kind
Yes.
of helps us not negate. But kind of as we wrap up here, tell us a little bit about like things you have coming down the pipeline. Like how can people connect with you further? How can they learn about Fun Cycled, kind of what you have, what you're working on for 2026, things of that nature?
Yeah. So, connection points, I would say follow us on Instagram, Facebook, or Pinterest. Those are top platforms, and that's with the handle Fun Cycled. You can also go on our website, funcycle.com, and there's a blog that you can get weekly updates. I do tips, I do top trends with links to like my favorite sofas that are less than $2,000 or my favorite sectionals based on so I try to give away as much expertise within, what I'm already researching anyway that I find that most people would benefited by. So that's a good way to stay in touch. I mean, we have a lot going on. I just got picked up with my artwork locally. There is my original art in Michigan in Stouffer Home, original art locally at Sand Lake Merchant, it's called. So if you're in this area, my book is on Amazon. We have a lot of things coming down the pipeline. We're in the talks of exclusive wallpaper line. So if you sign up for our blog, you'll see that where it'll be historic patterns, um, which are slightly altered to colors and styles that I like from our travels around the world. And I also have travel on our blog. I do a lot of traveling and I do all the tips on that, like traveling with 4 people really inexpensively. I'm going to Rome in April for $5,000 with 4 people. And so it's like I try to have approachable content that people would find helpful. But then from a work perspective, I do virtual and in-person design, and you can book that on our website. And the local kitchen cabinets, that would be more upstate New York, but we can do those as well. So, and I just got my biggest project to date is starting soon next week, where I'm helping design a $55 million convention center. So I'm really
My
excited
God.
about that.
So when are you gonna eat lunch and take a nap?
Those are always my dreams. No, actually, I
Yeah.
do try to be good about
That's
mixing
on the
in.
dream scale, actually. That's on the dream board for 2026.
Yeah, the vision board for sure. No, actually, I'm such an extrovert that I really try to make sure I have lunches throughout the day so I can keep up with my people. I just had lunch with my good friend before I came here, so I do try to prioritize that. But yeah, naps would be nice for sure.
Yes. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for being here and kind of telling us all about, Fun Cycled and how your journey has really evolved over the years. I'll make sure to put all the connection points for you and your business down in the show notes. And I appreciate
Thank
you
you.
being here.
I appreciate you having me. Thank you so much. It was fun.
Thank you.